Hi, I'm Thomas Vanwing. I am 31 years old and I am the spokesperson and communications director of Open VLD, that is the Flemish Liberal Party. I was interning in Washington, D.C. in the fall semester of 2010, so already 10 years ago. Those 10 years flashed by. Well, I interned with a small lobbying firm on Capitol Hill. That was FBB Federal Relations. It was a small firm with two experienced lobbyists who had experience working in Congress and then started their own firm. And it was a great experience because I got to know the US legislative process, the influence of lobbying firms, the way they work to further the interests of the companies they worked for. Those were pretty large companies, such as Reebok, for example, or the Port of Seattle. So it was very interesting to see how the legislative process worked on Capitol Hill and how it was shaped and aided by lobbyists. So it was a great experience for me to attend meetings on the Hill, to report on congressional hearings, to join lobbying meetings, to prepare those meetings, to get the facts and figures, to make the case for the businesses. So that was a very interesting experience that was useful in my later career as well. Well, there was of course the experience with the lobbying firm, which was very important for me. But at the work, it was my first professional experience as well. You do some student jobs here in Belgium, but there it was the first time. I was a guy of 21 years old, I think, at the time, and it was the first time at a real workplace. So that was important as well, and that's something you learn at the Washington Center as well. The professional experience, the attitude you need, the hard work you have to put in, and that's very useful when you apply for your first job at home. To get that experience already. Academically, it was a very interesting time for me as well because I'm a history student. I was a history student back at the time. And I was very interested in politics, of course, and international relations, diplomacy. So I used my time in DC to explore that area as well. I made appointments with the Belgian embassy, visited the ambassador, talked to him. And when I came back, I wrote my master's thesis in my last year at university about the Belgian-American diplomatic relations. So yeah, I used my time in DC really useful for my academic curriculum as well. And the whole DC experience furthered my academic and professional career because everything I did there helped me on the work floor in applying for jobs and later internships that I did. I always say to people I meet, my friends, my family, that the time in DC really changed my life, not only professionally but as a person as well. It's very important it was very important for my personal development to live not only abroad but across the Atlantic and live in the United States, which is very interesting because at the Washington Center you meet a lot of American people, the American way of life, but also people from around the world, and that's very interesting. And Washington D.C. is a beautiful city. It's very nice to live there. So that really changed my life. There's friendships that I still maintain today with people from 10 years ago. So yeah, that was great. I worked with a lobbying firm, so the legislative process, the way an ID becomes a law, and the whole process that a law goes through was very useful for me because when I came back, I finished my studies, then I interned at the European Parliament, And my first job was in the Belgian Federal Parliament as a spokesperson for OpenVLD. So it was very interesting to have the experience already from the American Congress and the way of working over there, and see what happens here in Belgium. But another thing I did in Washington, D.C. was volunteering during the midterms election in 2010 with the Arlington Democrats. So the campaigning experience was very useful as well, because I've always worked with OpenVLD, and in my 7 years working there now, I did 2 national campaigns and 2 local election campaigns. So I use, of course, the inspiration from campaigns in the United States in my work here, still today, because like in 2016, I joined European Liberals on the campaign trail in California and Nevada with the Clinton-Trump race. And only 2 months ago, I was in Iowa to see all the candidates, Democratic candidates, during the Iowa caucus. So it's very interesting for me as a political campaigner, somebody who works with communication and campaigns, to go to the United States, to see how they work there, and to get ideas and to use them at home in campaigning as well. Only one advice: never hesitate and aim high. If you aim high, you can achieve high results. I did that when I started out as a student in history. I just tried to get high scores. That made me able to be selected to go to Washington, D.C. Once I had done that internship and had the U.S. experience, I was able to get a great internship at the European Parliament, and that got me in the job that I have today, 10 years later. So from the Washington Center, only good things can come.